Hello everybody and welcome back to episode 2 of the Confederate Independence Timeline. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 20-year period between 1881 and 1901. Oh boy, and a lot of things happen. In 1881, Kansas becomes the first state to begin Prohibition. That begins in the South a lot earlier than it does in the North. The Red Cross is established within the U.S., so the CS does not have any sort of knowledge, or they have knowledge of the Red Cross, but they don't have it within their access, I guess you could say. And the Thumbfire destroys over 1 million acres of, land in the United States, so that's a bunch of funding and a bunch of, stock markets going down because of that. The International Cotton Exposition begins in the CSA, so, their economy is going up because of this. In 1802, the Standard Oil Trust monopoly is created in secret, so this is to make sure that the Confederacy doesn't know about this. President Tilden passes the Edmunds Act, making polygamy a felony in the United States. So this is all legal in the South, so that might bring some complications up later. President Tilden signs the Chinese Exclusion Act. Again, very unpopular. At the time, it was very much, okay, good, we can do our jobs, but later on, we'll see that this is very unpopular. President Tilden passes the 1882 Immigration Act, mostly targeted towards Chinese, pretty much an advancement on the Chinese Exclusion Act. In 1883, President Tilden signs the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act, so essentially the antitrust law, I guess you could say. Alabama would be the first southern state to enact this exact same thing. It wouldn't be so much as a response to the North doing it, but so much more that Alabama is just Alabama. President Bayard, Thomas Bayard, if you don't remember, opened Southern Exposition in Kentucky, continuing to increase Southern economy. The U.S. Supreme Court deems part of the Civil Rights Act of 1875 unconstitutional. There you go. 1884, the Alaska is annexed by the United States of America. Stewart's Folly still happens. And the 1884 election, reform Governor Grover Cleveland defeats Republican Speaker James Blaine 142 to 97 electoral votes to become the 22nd President of the United States. As you can see down this map down here, it does not look as lopsided as it does, but of course, the Reform Party is, targeting the Rust Belt and parts of the North, winning a big number of electoral votes. And the Washington Monument is completed within the Confederacy. So, there you go. 1885, the 1885 Confederate election, Democrat Senator Allen Thurman defeats Whig Governor Joseph Hawley 97 to 69 to become the 5th Confederate president. As you can see here, the Whig Party is doing a lot better within the South, and one of these days it's going to bite the Democrats in the butt, as it would seem. 1886, the Seattle Riot of 1886 occurs, that still happens, and the Carleton Massacre. 20 slaves are killed in Mississippi. There you go. I guess you could say race relations are worse in this timeline because of the whole Southern thing. 1887, the Confederacy occupies Pearl Harbor in Hawaii and uses it as a naval base. So the Confederacy has Pearl Harbor, that is their thing. And President Cleveland signs the Dawes Act in the U.S. Of course, the 10-year peace treaty between the U.S. and the Confederacy ends. It is not, renegotiated at the time, due to both countries being busy with their own things. In 1888, the Great Blizzard hits east of the U.S. and CSA, so you would see pretty much up from New York, probably up from, all the way up to Maine, all the way down to probably South Carolina or Georgia. That's how bad it is. Women and former slaves in this Confederacy start protesting for civil rights. Civil rights protesting starts years, literally a century before it happens in this timeline, because of the Confederacy's putting them down. Of course, the 1888 U.S. presidential election, reform President Grover Cleveland defeats Republican Senator Benjamin Harrison 123 to 116 to get reelected. However, Senator Harrison wins the popular vote by 2,000 to 3,000 votes, a narrow victory in the popular vote. Does he complain? No. Republicans complain a lot, but Harrison, he does not. 1889, President Cleveland signs the Enabling Act in the USA. President Cleveland and President Thurman meet in Washington, D.C. The peace treaty is not signed, though there is no hostility, between the two countries. That's a typo, forgive me. So, between the two guys, they get off pretty good. They talk together. They seem like they could be good friends in another timeline. I wonder why. But of course, the two say that there is no hostility between the two countries. That there should be no problems as long as one of the two are in office. In 1890, President Cleveland signs the Sherman AntiTrust Act, so a continuation, of course, for the antitrust stuff. And President Thurman signs the 11th Amendment, passing prohibition. Oh yeah, this becomes unpopular very quick, but amongst Confederate citizens, very quickly. In 1891, the Man with Mine disaster occurs in Pennsylvania. A lynch mob kills 11 Italians, 12 women, and 18 slaves in New Orleans. Yep. Stuff is getting pretty bad in the Confederacy. Democrat Congressman John Black defeats Whig Justice Samuel Miller 88-78 to become the 6th Confederate president. Yep, there are Whig Supreme Court justices, despite the fact that they've all been Democrats. And here's the reason for this. Back when the Confederacy was first beginning, Jefferson Davis, he would go on to state that there should be, 5 justices. He appoints 3 Democrats and 2 good old Whigs, or 2 conservatives. Mix things up, even though they're not going to get the majority. But ever since then, people have pushed for a popular vote Supreme Court, though the Democrats are going to say no. Or the Democrats, yeah, I said Democrats, right? Well, the Democrats say no. 1892, the Johnson County War breaks out in Wyoming. So again, many wars within states. Ephraim Grizzard, he's lynched in Tennessee. He's killed because of this. And President Black, he signs a bill limiting the rights to blacks and women. Even more than what he did in reality. Even more than what it is at this point. The 1892 election between Republican Senator Benjamin Harris, yes, he gets a second chance at the nomination, Reform Senator David Hill, and populist Congressman James Weaver is inconclusive as no one gets the majority of the electoral votes. 137 electoral votes are needed to win. But the results are 136 to 126 to 13. Harrison was 1 vote away, and he couldn't get it. House Speaker William Holman becomes the interim president. It only lasts for about 2 or 3 weeks. As the House votes on the president, Republican Senator Benjamin Harris gets enough votes to become the 23rd president of the United States of America. He gains 16 delegates to David Hill's 10 delegates to James Weaver's 1 delegate, which came from Colorado. U.S. battleships attacked the Confederate naval base in Pearl Harbor, starting the Pearl Harbor War. A little backstory on this. During Benjamin Harrison's 1892 campaign, he stated that the Confederacy should not exist and that the United States need to become united again, and not just some country named the Union States. They need to become united yet again, and he promised that slowly, one by one, he would take the Confederacy back. And he's going to start with Hawaii. In the Panic of 1893, the New York stock market crash, starting the U.S. Depression. The first depression in the United States, which hurts Harrison badly, especially since he's in the middle of a war. So far, the Pearl Harbor War kill count is 375 people are dead so far. 1894. Reformers in the United States Congress begin writing articles of impeachment against President Harrison. Let's see how well it turns out. Pearl Harbor War kill count at the end of the year is 2750 dead. So, not good, but the Confederacy have more people dead so far due to the surprise attack from the U.S. 1895, reform impeachment attempt fails against the president. Not enough members in the House to even attempt this. President Black signs a bill that allows slaveholders to force their slaves to fight in the Pearl Harbor War. So the Confederacy gains more equipment, more soldiers, I guess you could say, in this fight against the United States. And former slave Booker T. Washington delivers the Atlanta Compromise speech, now called the Atlanta Dream speech. Essentially his version of the I Have a Dream speech, citing that men, women of all colors, ethnicities need to have civil rights and equality. So far, the Pearl Harbor War kill count is at 44,730. The U.S. have more dead now than the Confederacy. 1896. Booker T. Washington is arrested and tried for sedition against the country. Sound familiar? Republican President Benjamin Harrison defeats Reform populist Congressman William Bryan 192-86 to win re-election. As you can see here, William Bryan does a lot better with the populist vote that James Weaver did and wins essentially the entire West. Essentially, he would only narrowly lose North Dakota to Harrison. And he would win big. He would also win in Indiana and Ohio, but it would not give him enough electoral votes. As he would win more states than Harrison, he would not get anywhere close to the popular vote victory that Harrison had back 8 years ago. Booker T. Washington's case is sent up to the Confederate States Supreme Court, hoping that this could be finished and they could, arrest him and all that. Arrest, kill, whatever. 1897. Confederate States Supreme Court case Washington v. Black. The Supreme Court decides 6-3 that all citizens, including minorities, have a right to free speech. This version, however, this does not include slaves. Booker T. Washington is found not guilty of any charges. The reason for this is that the Supreme Court in the Confederacy is a lot less partisan than the United States was. That was one thing that Jefferson Davis would, he would stress about over the Supreme Court, is just stay nonpartisan no matter what, even if it kills you. It's not. And this 6 Supreme Court justices right there, 2 of them are Democrats. Yeah, 2 of them were Democrats that stayed since the beginning. So they've been there since the beginning. And thus, they kept to their standards and voted. They voted with the Whigs. Now we'll talk about the 1897 Confederate election. Democrat Congressman Richard Bland defeats Whig Senator Shelby Cullom 92-81 to become the 7th Confederate president. Democrats are winning less and less electoral votes, and they recognize that it is a problem. Let's see if they can bounce back up after this. 1898. President Harrison signs a joint resolution with Cuba declaring war on Spain. The Pearl Harbor War, U.S. This is also the Pearl Harbor War, essentially. President Bland concedes the war in the Hawaii Territory to the United States, so they lost this war. The Confederacy lost this war. They won the Civil War, but they lost the Pearl Harbor War. Yeah, they did. They did. The Treaty of Paris is signed ending the Pearl Harbor War, so essentially they lost Hawaii. They did, which is very unpopular for Democrats. 1899, the USA begins the Philippine-American War, so they're going to go fight the Philippines now. Harrison's like, yeah, we're done with Hawaii, let's go get the Philippines. That's essentially what he's doing. In 1900, President Bland announces a trade deal with China, essentially an alliance. I have your back, you have my back, and we'll trade. That's essentially what it is. The CSA Senate confirms the Anglo-German Treaty. The CSA gains control of the Samoan Islands, giving them another naval base in loss of Hawaii. Republican Senator William McKinley. Now, back 4 years ago, he was running for senator and he won. Since he did not run for president, he ran for senator and won, despite the fact that his state went for Bryan in the race anyway, in the presidential race. He would defeat Reform Congressman William Bryan 159-122 to become the 24th U.S. president. William Bryan is losing his edge as he had lost the far west in Washington, Oregon, and California. He lost Wyoming, South Dakota. However, he did win Nebraska. He did win Illinois. He did win New York, though, which, of course, he won both of William McKinley and his running mate's home state, Ohio and New York, which a lot of people are like, then how he lose. William Bryan did win the popular vote. Yeah. He won it by, let's say, 1 to 2 percentage points over William McKinley due to his victories in New York and Ohio. And now the Reform Party are saying, let's get rid of the Electoral College. The Republicans were upset, but they didn't say, let's get rid of the Electoral College. The Reform Party are now saying that. Saying, let's reform the Electoral College by getting rid of it. 1901. The typhoid fever breaks out in Seattle, Washington. Back in the prison. President Bland passes the 12th Amendment, the annexation of Cuba. Now, you might be asking, okay, so where did this come from? Now, ever since the U.S. and Cuba had an alliance to go against the Confederacy, President Bland decided to get back at them by forcefully annexing the country of Cuba. Oh yeah, where you see this going, it's going to be real fun. The Confederate-Cuban War begins, but this is ground zero for World War I. Oh yeah, the Confederacy is fighting the Cubans, so you can also call this, the Confederate-Cuban War, World War I, or the Cuban Revolution, one of the three. The stock market crashes in the United States, but is quickly fixed by the end of the year. President McKinley is assassinated, same thing that happens in real life. So his vice president, Theodore Roosevelt, I was given some misinformation that he was born in the South, I was wrong. He becomes that is not right, the 25th U.S. president. That should say 25th, not 15th. President Roosevelt meets with the Confederate speaker who luckily survived trial for sedition, Booker T. Washington. This angers the South, and we'll see where this goes in the next video, in the next episode. Anyway, guys, this is the Chaotic One saying peace.